Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Video Marketing Podcast. And today we're joined by Jeremy Reid, and Jeremy is going to talk to us about video in real estate. So, Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
So let's just kick it off with starting with this question. Compared to a lot of realtors, you use a lot of video.
Yeah.
Why do you use video?
Well, basically, it's because of the ability to connect. Social media has kind of created this platform where you can actually connect with people more than like print ad was before or those types of things. So one of the reasons I like to use video is that it just gets the ability for them to connect with your business a little bit more, get an inside edge to what you're actually like, and they get a feel for me before we meet. So
tell me a little bit more about what do you mean by connect? I mean, obviously people can connect with you in like or learn about you and that type of thing in a print ad, or I mean there's so many different advertising venues for real estate. Real estate is a big spender of advertising money.
Absolutely.
What is it about video that is a better connection tool than, say, a print ad or something like that?
Yeah, so like in my industry anyway, we're really in a relationship business in a lot of ways. I mean, you have to be skilled, you have to have good service, you have to have all those things just like any other business. But at the end of the day, your clients have to trust and like you as well, because you're really dealing with one of the biggest investments that most people will ever make. So if the trust isn't there, there's no relationship, and a lot of times that's when you see just a complete fall apart from clients to realtor. So what video does, though, is it allows that relationship to happen without me technically meeting a lot of these clients. So what's really kind of neat about it is as I started using video, I noticed that when I was getting the calls from a lot of people, it was a little easier to get the trust already. They were a little more open to meeting with me. They were a little more comfortable having me come into their home because they've seen the video, they've seen my personality, they have a pretty good idea of what to expect. It's funny because before video, like you say, it was print ad and you had your website, but nothing was really lively. You always get those over Photoshop photos that just show. So really a lot of people would make an assumption about me based on the photo that I had. Some people would connect, some people wouldn't. But the photo doesn't really tell much of a story, especially when it doesn't really look like the realtor a lot of times. So video just kind of takes that away and shows the personality and allows you to talk. And so I think for any business, not just real estate, I mean, people want to in some way connect with the business, get the information, find out what they can expect dealing with that business. So I think that video kind of brings that into light.
Awesome. Those are some really great points. I would imagine that, well, actually, I know because you've told me in the past, but maybe if you could share with me again some of the comments that you've gotten from people with regards to the videos that you've put out there. Like, what kind of response do people, or what kind of feedback do people give you about your videos? What do you hear from the public, people that have seen them?
So I've gotten lots. That's probably one of the main comments I get is, I saw your videos, which is really cool. That's what I wanted. It's funny, with the videos, the ones that I hear the most about were the ones where it was more humorous, which kind of gave me a lot of feedback on it. I don't know if that was because it was something funny happened, that's what initiated them talking to me. But even if you look at the online hits, the ones that had some humor and really showed your personality and just being 100% myself, those are the ones that I probably got the most direct feedback where people, hey, I saw your video, I really like that. The other feedback that I got was because of the transparency of it. It was kind of neat, so it did start up a lot of conversations about things that maybe people hadn't really thought about before when it came to real estate. And you know what's kind of neat is there's really for me, it's no better when you go in and you meet with a new seller that I've never met before. And actually, you know what's a really good point of this? Because this to me was the best referral I ever got in my entire life. I just got it 2 days ago, and I got a call from the lady saying, we'd like to use you. We were recommended from my daughter, and I asked what the daughter's name was. And when she gave it to me, I was trying to piece it like, oh, where do I know her? And she's like, oh, she said you're just great. You're one of the best in town, blah, blah, blah. And so after a while, I said, I'm just having such a tough time placing your daughter. Well, I had never met the daughter. So having a raving fan in our industry, when you have a client that you bring in and you get a raving fan, that's one thing. But to have one on a third-party hand-in, that was probably one of the coolest.
So her daughter that referred you to her had seen your videos, but hadn't actually even hired you as a realtor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just that's what I mean when I was saying about the connecting. And I mean, the fact that she used those words like, "Oh, he's the best," and stuff like that. To me, I thought that was really neat because I've never met her, and I mean, there's a lot of good realtors in the city. It's just, and so to make that impression without meeting them really kind of shows the power of video too. So
It's interesting. It also, I mean, what do you have any idea what age her daughter is?
yeah, she was 26, 27.
So really, she fits into that millennials group.
Yep.
Obviously, her mother is probably a baby boomer or Generation X or whatever. It shows that the baby boomer has a level of influence over the entire market. Or sorry, a millennial. They respond very well to video, and they have an influence over the entire market, not just themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's kind of neat too because I'm building my team, and my team almost consists all of millennials, and the connection that they get with video is the same connection they get with being a part of a team. They want transparency. The old we're in the information age, so holding all the information back now, it's all out there for free anyway, so we don't really have that edge anymore, and it's not really an edge to have. So that's kind of the neat thing now is you're seeing more and more businesses that are just putting it all out there, and they're responding. And like you say, it does have a direct impact because I got a referral from a millennial, but I'm dealing with a baby boomer. So
And that's a direct result of using video.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you can point to that one, but from a sales perspective, can you track or tell us what kind of results you've gotten from your video advertising from a numbers perspective?
I can, sort of. It's weird. It's tough because, I mean, when we did the first project, it was we were going to take 10 homes and we were going to try to sell all 10 homes in less than 6 weeks, and 9 of them sold. So there was 9 directly there, which was part of the campaign. So I guess you can't count that as residual plus the buying that came after that. But I have had at least 6 people that have reached out just from watching the videos. But then there's that entire subgroup that's there because not everybody that I made an impression with those videos were ready to move right now. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the hard part to gauge is that I was out just the other night and I had met with a waiter that had seen the videos, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we were just talking about you. We're thinking about selling in the next couple of years, not right now." And so that's kind of a common thing of I've got them with video, but it's just not their time to move through yet. So now I guess the thing is staying top of mind because if you've won them over, you want to keep them obviously as close as possible. But so it's really hard to gauge how much it is yet. I think I'll have a better idea 3-4 years from now, just to see how big of an impact it had. But it's going to be big.
It sounds to me like that people are noticing your videos way more than they would a print ad, and that they're stepping forward and saying, "Hey, I saw your video," and that it's brought you top of mind. It's created huge awareness for you that no other advertising campaign would do.
Yeah. Well, even with the, and this is such a minor thing, but it's because we don't have a huge sample size, I guess. But even on our Facebook page, when we would post new listings, we would post the picture and the print ad and a link back to the website. And then all we did is we switched it because Facebook allows it to a video, where now it's just a slideshow video. But our average hit was about $200 or 200 views. And as soon as we started putting the video, it went up over 1,200 every time we put it out. That's a huge increase just from switching it from a picture to video. So the internet consumes video a lot different now. People take response to video a lot different. So
you've gone from 200 views per listing on Facebook to 1,200 views per listing on Facebook.
Unpaid.
Just by using unpaid.
Yeah.
And by paid, we mean obviously targeted advertising versus just sharing it out through social feeds.
Yeah.
And that's just from changing the strategy from a photo to video.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just something about it. You're going through your Facebook or feed on the mobile and the video starts, people tend to stop and take notice.
When you share those videos, I think this is something that I shared with you back a long time ago, but when you share those videos, do you upload them directly to Facebook or do you put them on YouTube and then just share the YouTube video?
Yeah, that's an important one. So and it's funny, I just made this mistake the other day. I had my assistant put one up, and she put the link to YouTube, and we got almost no hits. So that downloading the MP4 and actually uploading it directly to Facebook, so it starts running right away. That's huge.
Yeah.
And
what we've found for our clients, which we educated you on, is that when you upload a video directly to Facebook, Facebook gives it better organic reach to an audience because it's on their platform and they want their videos to show up more than anybody else's videos off of a different competing platform.
Yeah.
So they give it a better ranking. They show it in more feeds because it's on their platform and Facebook wants to show off its video platform.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll stay like that? Like, how long do you think it'll... Because, I mean, it's so cheap to make an impression on Facebook, but you got to imagine as they're starting to take more and more share, the cost is going to have to go up, wouldn't you think? Or do you think they'll always...
I think what it comes down to is that Facebook, all the platforms, they're looking for videos that really engage the audience. If the audience is enjoying the content, each one of those audience members is dollars in advertising for those platforms, right? I think Facebook put out the other day that the value of a client to Facebook, the value of a user to Facebook from an advertising perspective is $12, right? So the more users that they have engaging with content on Facebook, the more money that Facebook makes in advertising revenue.
So that it doesn't really make sense for them to up their cost per click or anything like that?
Well, what it comes down to, the cost per click is based on demand, right? So the more that advertisers use a particular medium and see success with it, the more that they're willing to spend.
Yeah.
But more importantly, Facebook and all the other platforms out there, they're not going to be able to sell advertisers unless advertisers are getting results. We're in a results-based economy, right? This is why traditional medium, like, I hate to say it, newspaper, television, radio, traditional advertising is dying a very painful, slow death because they're generally pitching, do awareness advertising, do, top of mind advertising. You can't measure your results. You can't say this got me exactly this many views, this many sales, et cetera, et cetera. They avoid the accountability.
Yeah.
Whereas Facebook is based almost entirely on accountability. YouTube is based almost entirely on accountability. We got you this many views, this many click-throughs, this many sales, right?
Yeah.
So you're able to measure how many likes you get, but more importantly, how many views, how many people actually saw that, how much they watched through. Did they abandon it right at the beginning? Did they watch through all the way to the end? And how many of those converted to click-throughs to your website and converted to leads?
I was going to say now that I've got analytics onto the site so you can see where the funnels are coming in, that is a really neat number to start watching how many people are actually coming onto the website and staying on your website afterwards. So but it's, like you say, it's all out there. The whole 50% of your advertising will work. You just can't tell which 50% is kind of going by the wayside pretty fast.
Well, now you can tell. Now it's a results-based economy. So you've Google, YouTube, Facebook, all of the different mediums out there, they need to be able to prove to the advertiser that it's getting the results that the advertiser needs so that the advertiser will continue to pour in more money.
Yeah.
It's not about as much an increase in the amount of money they're spending per customer. It's about keeping that advertiser spending the constant money to keep those clients coming in.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not an increase in cost as much as it is a volume and continuing to shift their advertising over to that type of media, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
So Facebook, YouTube, all of the different platforms, they're out there looking for increased engagement, not just increased revenue.
Yeah. Because
increased engagement does increase the revenue for them, right? So I think that, you're really tapping into that. I know that a lot of businesses, when they put videos out, like there's definitely a place for YouTube. YouTube is very important. But a lot of businesses, when they try to do their own video, they get 100, 200, 300 views. And they're pretty happy. but you're seeing huge differences in that on your campaign videos.
Yeah.
What kind of numbers were you getting for views? I mean, we live in a town of 80,000 people.
Yeah.
You were targeting and pushing the advertising out there.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that. What kind of views you were getting? Because it's a little unusual from what the average business experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. So we set our campaign to 7 days, and we were spending $25 a day. That's what we had put, which is pretty modest when you think about it. Each episode we ran for 7 days, $25 a day. We put a pretty high portion of that went to the Facebook ads, and then the rest went into YouTube. And the videos that we started with humor or had something funny happen, they did significantly better than the others. But all across the board, when we were done, we averaged about 16,000 views every video that we put out in just Kamloops, because we only targeted Kamloops. Now, as people started sharing them and going out, I'm sure we did go outside of Kamloops a little bit. I can't say that would all be in Kamloops, but that's a pretty big portion when you think, like you say, we're 88,000 people.
16,000 views in Kamloops of people watching really real estate videos.
Yeah.
Right? Percentage of population, I mean, we're talking
20%.
25% of the population of Kamloops are looking at your videos.
Yeah. That's
in
crazy.
A week.
Yeah.
Right? The definition of viral is like 10,000 views in a week or less.
Yeah.
Right? So you're hitting viral status on these videos.
Yeah.
For spending $25 a day times 7 days.
Yep. And that's crazy
huge,
when you think about
right?
it.
I don't think any other medium, whether it's newspaper, radio, or television, can boast that kind of reach in that short period of time in a market like Kamloops.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And you know what's the neat thing about it too, because I've had time to analyze that, especially going forward on, okay, what's the next video project we're going to do. And I'm reading a book right now called Fanatical Prospecting. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
No.
It's by Jeb Blount. It's a good read. But it was talking about the difference between social selling and direct sales. And the social selling aspect, he made a really good point that people are not going onto social media to be directly sold. So stop trying to sell them things. It's all about familiarity. So the neat thing about the video is, looking back on it now, because I didn't know at the time, that's exactly what it did. It used social media to give a piece of information. It was full transparency. It had a good enough storyline that people took actual interest in it. And then at the end of the day, it made them familiar with my brand and who I was. So it hit all the aspects of what should happen in social selling. Right. And I think that's the reason that it did so well, is that it hit those 4 metrics.
Right. So for the audience benefit, for those people that haven't seen your videos on that 6 weeks or less campaign series, in each one of those videos, you picked a particular topic to focus on to teach the audience about the importance of that. One was about the importance of staging a home. Another was about the importance of having it pre-inspected. Another was the importance of using the right photography and how to capture the right photography and hiring a professional to do that for you.
Yeah.
So it's not just putting a sales message out, it's putting some valuable information out there to educate.
Yeah, and that was really smart, and that was kind of one of the things that I was really happy that you pointed out at the start was the 3 minute that we kept it under.
Yep.
That was huge, because it's like statistically, you start getting up over 5 minutes, your average engagement is going to go way down. So keeping it under 3 minutes made a lot of sense. So that was the neat structure that we put together. Was it was 1 minute of, okay, what happened before going in? Because we took these listings and we actually filmed before going in. Then when there was 1 minute of roughly of one takeaway piece, one part of the selling system that we wanted to accent on the home, and then 1 minute that basically showed the result. So it was broken down perfectly, and I think we averaged 2 minutes and 40 seconds. But we were like 80% of the people that watched all the way through, which is crazy. So,
unheard of numbers.
Yeah. So that was pretty phenomenal. So the whole thing, just the way that it was set up and the plan, I mean, that kind of goes into the guy that buys a camcorder and tries to run it, or someone that actually plans out a campaign. I mean, the results, if I had gone and tried to hire my wife to come in and bring a camera crew and do the exact same thing, there's no way. Because it wouldn't have been the same result. So it was a mixture of a couple things that made it such a success. Now
we've experimented with a longer form video for you as well. I know that you and I worked on a video for selling a high end home that was 7 minutes long.
Yeah,
and but that you targeted a much larger audience for that.
Yeah,
it was a 7 minute long video. And your numbers were way more than 12,000 on the viewing on that.
Yeah, well, that one we went to 52,000.
So 52,000 views.
Yeah, an extended period of time and
Yep.
and a bit bigger of a budget because that was more of the selling video. But the engagement on that was that you know this, but I know the engagement on that was that we picked a really specific part about the home that you just don't find anywhere else, and we accented that through the video. I mean, it's a 7-minute video, but we also did the capture based on the biggest selling feature of that home, 11 boat marina. And then we really targeted who we sent it out to. So we weren't just kind of blasting it to everybody. I see that a lot of times where people just go new listing, and that kind of goes back to the fanatical prospecting. You're always just trying to sell. You don't get a lot of traction just trying to sell to people. So what we did with that one, which I think it was the reason it worked so well, is we really targeted, okay, who are we going after? We targeted the realtors from the other areas of town first, because and gave them an incentive to share it with their clientele. We also used, because you have so much information, you can use all types of different sources to get it out to buyers that are in Vancouver and Calgary, but have a reasonable chance that they are buying, not just blasting it out to them like everything else.
So tell me a little bit about that. So this is the targeted side of Facebook.
Yeah, so a different approach than the one that I did.
You've got, I mean, lots of businesses are familiar with just sharing a normal post, whether it's a video or a photo or a text post or whatever.
Yeah.
But not everybody is familiar with the targeted advertising side of Facebook and what you can do.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about that, using maybe that example video.
Yeah.
What are the types of things that you were able to pick out and push that video in front of specific people? Like, give me some examples of some of the things that maybe surprised you that you were able to identify with regards to a target audience.
Sure. So the first thing we wanted to do was we wanted to try to find some buyers that were in Vancouver or Calgary. So the first strategy we went after is when we went into the targeted ads, we can pick profession. Well, real estate or realtor, real estate investor, those types of things give you pretty good indicators of the job titles that may know clientele that would be interested in that. So what we did is we did one campaign that was targeted just towards realtors in those areas. And then we basically, what's the word I'm looking for? We picked realtors, but then we targeted the entire ad towards, hey, with this, because I remember the market was really hot in Vancouver. So we said, hey, realtors, basically, would the option to come to Kamloops and be under $1 million and have an 11-boat marina be enough incentive for your sellers that are holding off to sell and move on? So we kind of put it as, we almost kind of, and that's a really short version, but in a sense what we did is we basically made it where we're giving you the script to go pitch your clients with.
Right.
So we were able to do that and then pick the right demographic to target to. And then it only made sense that, if we were going to sell a marina, and these were genius options that you came up with, target people that were boat enthusiasts, or people that own multiple boats. Or you could even do, like with when you go into Google, we hijacked, if people put Kamloops lakefront or anything like that, we were able to hijack, so your video came up in a Google AdWord ahead of those types of listings. So you're able to target, if you put a little bit of thought into, okay, buyer or people that are online are probably typically going to do this, or they're going to be interested in these types of things that are interested in this type of property. So let's set the ads tailored to talk to directly that group of people, and then put in the settings. And Facebook's made it really easy to do, where they'll actually give you options. So if I go in and say, okay, I want to target realtors, they'll give you a suggestion. Okay, well, would this type of profession fit similar to a realtor? And then you're going through and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. You can even target certain parts of town. It's phenomenal what you can do.
So you can target geographic, you can target behavior, you can target profession, you can target income level. There's just about no end to what you can target so long as your imagination can go there.
Yeah.
The important thing is to figure out how to identify who is most likely to be in your buying cycle, in your target that you want to go after, and make the message customed to that specific target group.
Absolutely. And that's I think a step that right now, I know from personal experience, we've been getting a ton of response off that, because not only can you target the listing, right? When we put it on Facebook, we don't just say, okay, Facebook, send it out to everybody and let's just hope for the best. We always target a very specific genre with Facebook, and then we tailor the write-up as if we were talking to that exact buyer. And, just from a marketing aspect, for instance, I had a listing. This was probably, I'd say, the best result that we had so far. We had a listing that was listed for $249,900, had been completely redone, was the perfect first-time home buyer's home, and there was a really strong reason why this location should appreciate as time went on. So we just did exactly that. We put out an ad, wrote it directly to the first-time home buyer, and then we put in there everything a first-time home buyer would want to know. Why is it a good long-term investment? Why does it make more sense than renting? I went to my banker and said, okay, how much is the payment per month? What's the interest rate? We put it all in there. And we had 56 tags of people that tagged their friends into that listing, and we had 4 buyers come from it. Went to a multiple offer directly from that one Facebook thing. So we drew the buyer in before we even hit the MLS just through Facebook, and still had a multiple bidding more just by picking the right target, putting it in front, and making the message right.
So let me just get this straight, because I don't know if everybody is going to get this unless we make it really, really clear.
Okay.
You're a real estate agent.
Yeah.
95%, I'm guessing, of real estate agents out there get the listing, take the photos, put it up on MLS, sit in a chair and wait for the phone to ring. You, if I understand this correctly, broke the mold. You completely went outside the real estate system altogether, and you found a buyer, or you found 4 buyers for this particular home that didn't even go to MLS to find it, didn't even go to a real estate newspaper rag, didn't even go walk through a real estate office. They weren't searching websites. You went and found them on Facebook, pulled them in, got 4 buyers, doing a bidding war on a home, all from Facebook, and sold the home to somebody off of Facebook.
I feel like I should be paying you for the endorsement. That's the best build-up I've ever heard. But that's that's how that one played out. That's how we treat most of our listings.
So I don't think people realize that you can actually do that, right? I think most people think, I've just got to do the advertising the way everybody else does the advertising and get stuck in all that noise. But you're breaking the mold and breaking outside of that noise and really getting attention by focusing on people where they're at.
Yeah, but at the same point, it's no different than the like the MLS, for instance. MLS is extremely powerful. A lot of people don't realize how powerful it actually is. That's one example, and it's good to bring that buying pool in through other means, but I don't want to discount the MLS at all. But here's where there's advantages on the MLS. I mean, on the MLS, you now have photos you've got to write up, and now we have what's called a multimedia button. And that multimedia button, we're getting their early tracking, and it was just coming in from Remax. Having a video attached to that listing is upping engagement's huge, which means that people are deciding as they're going through, they're actually landing in engaging on listings. I don't have the actual numbers, but they're saying the numbers are coming in high, really high percentage of the time over ones that don't have a video. So that's why I'm really excited about the project that we were talking about, which is bringing in video to the marketplace. Is that something we can
Sure,
talk about?
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
at the end of it, it's not a big secret. So so what's kind of neat about this next way is exactly like you and I had talked about. So when you sell a home, it's a very unemotional thing. We strip down all the emotion out of the house. We make you fix the wall where little Timmy went through the wall at 3 years old. We make them repaint. We stage. We take down personal pictures so that people can, when they go through, connect with the home. So we strip down all emotion out of the house. Yep. And then our mediums before used to be, like you say, newspaper, photos, things that were very cold.
You show the house empty, very clinical looking.
Yeah.
And while you're trying to make it appeal to everybody, it starts to appeal to nobody.
Yeah, and so what we, like when I did my first yearly training in listings, what we'd always try to do is in the write-up, we'd like to include certain words that would draw mental pictures and create metaphors that would really help people engage, because we know buyers buy 80% emotionally and then they justify logically afterwards. So it was interesting when you had this process that traditionally had been completely unemotional, but you know your buyers are buying emotionally. How do you bring it back in? Well, that's the neat thing about video is now we can bring that emotion in. So like the video that we did, it hit the targets perfectly. It was a guided tour with B-roll that showed the background, but then also a seller interview, because at the end of the day, 90% of the time you want to sell to someone very similar to the person that owns the home now.
Yeah.
That's your demographic. They bought it. Why would you not start there as your demographic? So let them tell the story. Let the buying audience connect with them. If they connect with them, they connected with the home. So virtual tours are great, but they're still very cold. That method that we're taking and that we're rolling out, that, in my opinion, is going to hit all the buttons on how does a buyer emotionally connect, how do you showcase the home properly, and then you've got that multimedia link that's, when the numbers come in, we're probably going to have 50, 60% more engagement by having a video attached to the listing. So
Right.
video is the way. I mean, I think I told you about this. YouTube put a statement out that by mid-2017, 80% of all internet usage is going to be through consuming video. I mean, if you're not doing video, you're pretty far behind the eight ball right now.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
I think that what you've keyed in on, though, is there's also a difference between good video and bad video,
Absolutely.
right? And it's not just taking a bunch of photos and putting them in a slideshow, because still it's not necessarily emotionally engaging, right? When you can really tell that story, make things transparent, and cover things that most realtors would miss, that's where you really can instill value that you just can't get any other way.
No.
And it's scalable. Like, I know I'm selling my home through you right now. And there are so many little things about that home that if you have a realtor contact you and say, we'd like to show this home and bring one of our buyers through, you're not there.
Yeah.
I'm not there. That realtor is walking them through the home, and they might be missing a whole bunch of really important things. You know, they may not know that there's built-in backup surge protection and power on every plug in the entire house, built into the furnace room with a special addition to the electrical panel.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know that unless there was something there explaining that fine detail, that little thing, right? They might look at the dock and say, okay, it's a dock, but it's not just a dock. It's a full marina with shore power and everything. Those are the little details that an average realtor would miss if they're just showing somebody else's listing.
Yep.
But by putting all of that in the story of the video, it gets that message across from the seller's perspective to the buyer.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is that it takes off a lot of the focus. Like when I showed the listing after people had the video, I didn't show anybody that house that hadn't seen the video yet. So they had gotten the best sales pitch about the home before they had come through. They knew everything about it. They'd seen it in its best light. Now it was just coming through, and all that clutter was kind of gone. It was very laser focused. So, it's.
I think if I remember rightly, you had more than one person come through the home, and they said they wanted to come and see it because they wanted to make sure that it was exactly like the video said.
Yeah,
Right?
and they were walking through, and they knew everything. And it was kind of funny because the one husband, when I showed it, he had watched the video multiple times, obviously, because when he was going through, he was giving the guided tour to the wife. And I was trying to do, but at the end of the day, go ahead. So he was telling her everything about the home. This is where the shore power is. This is what was. So it was really kind of neat to see that switch as well.
Right, you're turning buyers into the realtors themselves, where they're really just, they get it and they understand better than their realtor.
Yeah, and then what's funny too is because it's such a powerful medium, and going back to that, do you do it professionally or do you try to? They've got every equipment. You can buy a camera for $100 now. Mm-hmm. Well, a cheap. People watching this, they probably noticing things about me that you would never notice online. People are way more critical about a video, I found, than face-to-face. Like someone watching this might notice I've done this a couple times, and they're going to notice that where they wouldn't notice it before. So when you have a cheap video, it makes the house look cheap. Right. If the audio's gone, buyers won't listen to something with bad audio or bad graphics or something that's not visually appealing. There's an entire science to keep someone's attention through a video that most people just don't have. Mm-hmm. And even myself being a part of this, I have a very amateur outlook on it. I can tell certain things. I can tell that certain pans shouldn't be more than 4 seconds, and a down top to bottom pan shouldn't be more than 2. But at the same time, there's certain sequences that has to go in to keep people's attention. There's a certain amount of time that has to be on me talking and a certain amount of time. So, people probably found me a lot more engaging in my 3-minute videos than listening to me on a podcast because the editing kept their attention the whole way through. So,
right. I think there's probably something to be said, and I'm guessing here, you correct me if I'm wrong, there's a value in having a professional team work with you on producing the video itself.
Yeah.
But would you say that there's also a value if you have the right team to the coaching and the mentorship you have for things that aren't necessarily anything to do with the video, but from their experience, they're able to educate and mentor you through other things that also affect the sale?
Well, it has to be, yeah, because I mean, it depends what your end result goal is. I mean, if you're the guy can be amazing with a camera, but if that's the only value they bring in, it's kind of tough for me to tell you exactly what I want. So the idea of having a team where you actually sit down, like we did in a boardroom, and said, okay, here's the plan, here's how we're going to execute, here's how each video is going to look, and you take a couple hours right at the start to really hound that in. And then as it's going through, having a team to bounce, what should we do on this? I mean, even from the early days of when we did that campaign to how the videos actually turned out, they changed as we went on.
Yep.
But they changed for the better because it was those constant meetings and the planning. And you know what? These first 3 videos went this way. This is something that we didn't really look at. How are we going to adjust to, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, no, having the team
adapt to changing market conditions and new learned information.
Yeah, and so having the team is the value, in my opinion, because you've got, I mean, you guys are very skilled at what you do, though I don't want to downplay that. Everything you guys do is skilled, but having someone to actually bounce the ideas off and plan a campaign is a lot different than someone that's just very good with a camera. And I think that's the big difference a lot of people look at too, or think is that, okay, well, what if I just hire a professional guy to just come in and shoot? Well, my concept of what I thought the campaign was going to be when I first walked in, if we had just done that, it wouldn't have been anything like it was. It would have been a completely different takeaway and probably not as successful at all, I would think.
You probably wouldn't be doing video still.
Well, no, because I think wasn't our first campaign going to be a 30-minute? I'll do all. Like
it was going to be one big long
explanation pitch that people would have listened to for 2 minutes and
then just
shut
left.
off. Yeah. So I mean, to get the point across, you have to have a strategy behind it.
Absolutely.
And then, but I mean, that's a really good example. So that was the original idea that we had hatched. But then again, when we had first talked about it, it's like, well, no one's going to watch that. So now we got to do little mini ads to build up to it, which would have been a good idea. And then, so it was kind of that whole process. Well, actually, maybe if we just break it down into 10 individual parts on the video. I mean, that was a process that went through all the way along, which was
the 6 weeks or less campaign videos in total. I mean, there was 30 minutes of video.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any feedback from people as to how many of those videos people watched?
Yeah. So that's where I might not have capitalized as much as I think I did capitalize. I don't know if I capitalized as much as I can or as much as I did. I went through just kind of my past clients and calls and things like that. I didn't find many people that saw more than 2.
Okay.
Actually, of the 10 videos. So I think that, you know, from my perspective, I probably didn't even hit the full potential that I had. Just because
sounds like there's a huge opportunity there for remarketing and re-engaging
absolutely
to get them to continue to drip those out.
Yeah.
And remind people that they're there, and emphasize what each video is teaching, the singular point that each video is teaching.
That's what I think. Absolutely. So that for 2017, I've got a ton of great content to market with my Facebook now, or all social media platforms. So yeah, it's almost like having individual standalone episodes. But it's kind of crazy when you think about that we had that kind of exposure, yet not a lot of people saw more than one, or more than 2, I'd say, on average, right? There are people that I talk to, though, that watch all of them. So I mean, there are quite a few people that watched it all the way through.
Did you ever find out that raving fan, the daughter that referred you and hadn't even met you?
She watched them all.
She watched them all?
Yeah, she did watch them all. She'd, you know, what is the cutest thing? I thought this was so funny. One of my, I love them, favorite clients, Savannah and Brandon. They've got 2 twin daughters, and it's so cute. They would, whenever they were on Facebook, they would, when a new episode came on, they would constantly come together and be like, hey, we got a new episode, and they'd watch it as a family. They were actually one of the 10 that were in it.
Oh, cool.
But it was so neat to hear that. So it almost took on this whole life of having episodes. And then the weirdest thing is, going back to the millennial, is I work with big brothers and big sisters. We do what's called the Big Bunch, and all my kids are around 11, and it's so funny because every time I pick them up, they'd watched all of them too. So at 11 years old, because they recognized me on it, so it would come up in the queues. So I guess the difference is whether you're following and looking for it, or if it's just something that kind of shows up in the feed. But a lot of people actually every time it came out. But
it's hitting a broad audience organically, outside of the ones that you're targeting.
Yeah, exactly. And the ones that it was hitting organically were typically the ones that were watching all the episodes. because it was just, they liked my page because they saw one of the episodes, or they followed the link back and went to our YouTube channel and caught up, or things like that, right? So
the last thing I want to just ask you about is I know that sometimes businesses have a hard time getting testimonials, and in some ways, each of those 10 episodes was really coupled with just a phenomenal testimonial from each of those sellers. Any feedback from any of your clients that participated in that about being on camera? Was there any problems there? And then what happened afterwards?
Yeah, no, actually it was funny. So lots of nerves before. The amount of texts that I got before, just questions, what do I expect, this and that from him, was really funny. And I don't blame him at all, because I felt the exact same way the first time I went through. But what I thought was really neat was just seeing, I don't think there was a single person, and correct me if I'm wrong, there wasn't a single person that wasn't willing to keep going, that thought it was almost too short. Like I don't remember anyone in our group that did anything but that's it. And, like I didn't get that feeling. There wasn't really anyone that was like, hey, get this mic off me. I need all. So that was kind of neat, because we had such a range of personalities. And we had some people that were shaking before we went onto camera. And then you get going, you get in a flow, and it's fun. And you're having some laughs, and then it's just over before you know it. So that wasn't a problem.
And then some of them, if I remember correctly, had even given you feedback of, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, that was
absolutely.
That was fun.
Yeah. We had lots of people actually afterwards that reached out asking about a season 2. And whether they could be a part of the season 2, which was kind of cool. So it did take kind of a mind of its own. You know what else is really neat? And I did get this feedback quite a few times. But one of the things that I thought was really powerful, and a lot of people picked up on, not just myself, the neat thing about the way that this one was shot, and I'm sure it can relate to other businesses, was that there's an old adage in real estate that says your clients will never love you as much as the first day they deal with you. After that, the love just drops. There's actually a joke that our job is to sell the home before they hate you. That was the old adage, because as days go on, that love meter starts dropping. So what was actually neat about this is that the testimonial came at the end. And a lot of people picked up on that the house, we took the house, like some of these houses sold in like 3-4 days. Well, how do you sell a house in 3 or 4 days and keep a client still happy? That's a challenge, unless you got to be 100% on your game, explain everything through, and make sure they are 100% educated. Because I know me personally, if I just took my realtor's advice and they just said, hey, here's the price you have to go at, and I priced at that, and it sold in 3 days, and then they collected the check, I'd be wondering, like, did I get cheated? Did it get fire saled?
I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So the challenge was on this one was not only to sell all the homes in less than 6 weeks or less, but to make sure that we educated our sellers so much that when we did sell in less than 6 weeks, they looked at it as a win. Because a lot of people think, and I still hear this, well, yeah, you sold all 10 homes in 6 weeks or less, you just fire saled them.
Yep.
Well, I couldn't, because imagine what those testimonials would look like. I wouldn't be able to air them.
Yep.
He's a snake. He cheated us, everything, right? So that was the coolest part about that campaign, was that transparency had to be there.
In the campaign, on the videos themselves, it shows asking price compared to what it sold for.
Yeah.
So they can see that it wasn't discounted deeply on any of the listings.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly.
And I think the one that you didn't sell, even that client was happy with you, because you educated them that this house, you shouldn't be dropping the price. You probably could have sold it if you encouraged them to drop the price, but you encouraged them not to drop the price, but just to wait until the market corrects for that area.
Yeah, and they got their price. So it didn't happen in the 6 weeks, but they got their price. So, I mean, technically 10 out of 10, but the goal was to sell all less than
six weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, it made sense to them. But yeah, exactly. So I guess that was kind of one of the funnier excuses that I heard about it. But that was the beauty about that campaign, is that there was nothing that was hidden. Everything was so transparent, and there was so much accountability on it. I couldn't just fire sale them. I couldn't. It wouldn't have made any sense. And that was kind of neat. Now, and it's kind of funny. I almost wish I had a camera crew walking around with me all the time, because that level of accountability is excellent, because it keeps both sides on. And so now it's the challenge, and I think we do a pretty good job managing it, but the challenge is acting like the cameras are on and still having our sellers engaged, because I've never made any qualms about it. All the sellers that were in this, they did a ton of hard work. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not easy to sell a home that fast and get the results that we were getting without them putting some pretty hard work. I think our average client that came in, it took about 2 weeks of pre-work before we were even ready to put a sign in the ground and list it. Mm-hmm. So now it's that accountability of, yeah, I saw that you did it, Jeremy, but you know what? I don't think we really need to do this, or we really need to do that, or we don't really. But when the cameras were on, it was kind of neat because everyone they kind of knew the camera was there. They had to do it all. Yeah. So that's one of the kind of funny challenges where our results are still saying good, but really good actually. I don't want to discount that, but it's that 6-week Sold series really brought out the absolute best. And so now, going into 2007 with us expanding into a team, I'm going to be bringing the videos in and really trying to break that home that this is what we want to achieve, and it's going to be hard work, but here's the end payoff, so that we can continue to get the same results on each one, even without that accountability.
Awesome.
Weird thing to think about, hey, that's the tough part.
Well, you know what? It's all strategy, right? And it's really thinking through and planning and being able to adapt with strategy, and not just doing video for the sake of video, not just doing advertising for the sake of advertising, but really planning it out and being very, very purposeful about where you are, where you want to get to, and how you're going to get there, and why you're going to do what you're going to do. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that you've done really, really well with video, and the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Any final thoughts with regards to video for real estate?
Yeah. No.
No?
Awesome. I mean, I could talk about video all day, but I can't think of anything that really needs to be added that we didn't hit.
I think we covered some really good points.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll just wrap at that. So we'll just say if you want to get a hold of Jeremy Reid to list your home, you can get a hold of him through jeremyreid.ca.
Am I sponsoring this show?
Well, I thought I'd do a little bit of a plug for you. It's important. That's been another episode of the Video Marketing Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to give us your comments below this video in the comment section down there. If this is your first time watching the Video Marketing Podcast from Mastermind Studios, don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like us on Facebook. Every week or two, we're going to be putting out great content just like this video. And lastly, if you're interested in having your own video podcast, don't forget that the Video Podcast Center here at Mastermind Studios has been set up to help you with exactly that, with the great support and help from the folks here at Mastermind Studios. Thank you.